Hello guys, I'm back. This is Vich from Sol Forex. Back guys with another video explaining. I've been getting a lot of questions from people asking how do you do these harmonic patterns, how do you measure harmonic patterns, how do you spot them. On the last video, if you remember, I also promised that I'm gonna do a video explaining how do you spot these harmonic patterns. If you remember guys, on the last video I did, which is a follow-up video, I was explaining about the patterns that I saw there. If you remember, I found the butterfly pattern, stroke, deep crab pattern on one pattern in the on one spot, because underneath this one you can see there's a butterfly pattern there which went all the way to 127, and there's also a deep crab which I found on the same spot which also retraces where on 1.618. Then I found what we call a shark pattern. So I found three patterns guys. On the following video I'm gonna explain what happened on that shark pattern which I found there on my latest video. But now guys, I want to teach you how do you spot these patterns, how do you see if how do you differentiate from harmonic patterns. That's a lesson for today guys. This is very easy guys. You can see it as a very difficult thing. If you're watching my videos, you can see that these patterns, you can see it as a very difficult thing, but these things are very easy guys. I know all of them by head, but if you take time and learn yourself and back test on your chart and check how do you spot these harmonic patterns, you must have something to write guys for this lesson that I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna explain guys a lot about these harmonic patterns. How do you spot harmonic patterns? How do you take profits on harmonic patterns? I'm gonna start with the one that I found on my last video. On the first video I did, we found a butterfly pattern there. I'm gonna go deep explaining how do you spot these patterns and how do you measure them. How do you measure when you find a harmonic pattern taking place? As I said guys, before you check anything else, if you check your chart and you see something that looks like an M like this, if you see something that's like a double top or a double bottom, if you see this one, it's more like a double top, and this one is more like a double bottom. If you see something like an M or something like a W forming, then you must know that that's a harmonic pattern that's gonna form there. That's a harmonic that's gonna form, and there's not only one harmonic patterns, there's different kinds of harmonic patterns that you find. There's 1 2 3 4 5 6, there's 7 all in all. The cipher, I don't use it that much. If you check on top, there's a butterfly pattern, there's also Gartley pattern. Bat and shark are more or less the same. I'm gonna explain why do I say so. Crab pattern and deep crab pattern are more or less the same also. I'm gonna explain why do I say they are more or less the same. Cipher pattern is one on its own, but I'm not gonna go deep on cipher pattern because I don't use cipher patterns that much. Okay guys, let's dive deep into butterfly pattern. If you check your charts guys, then you see something like an M forming, then you must know that there's a harmonic pattern that's gonna form there. So I use what we call Fibonacci retracement a lot when I'm checking harmonic patterns. What do you do? Let's say guys, you spot M type that is forming right there. You see something like a double top that is forming. First thing you do guys, you take your Fibonacci retracement, you take it from the bottom of your impulse leg. You take it from the bottom of your impulse leg all the way to your first leg. First leg is your first leg of your double top. If you see your first leg, you take from this point all the way to that one. This is what we call, okay, let me explain something quickly first before I take you deep in this harmonic pattern. If you see something like this, an M type guys, the start of the impulse leg, we call that a point X. So when I'm talking about this, you're gonna hear myself talking about point A, point B, point C. It's not that difficult guys. When you see a start of a harmonic pattern, that's your point X. First leg of your harmonic pattern is a A point, and your apex is the middle part of your M. That's what we call your B point. That's your B point. And then C point is your second leg of your double top, and then your D point, that's when you get your what? You get your entries on your D points. So you must wait for your whole pattern to form before you can take your what? Your entry. All this must form. All of this M must form before you can take your what? Your entries. Where at the D point. D points are entry points. And then on the bearish one also, if you see something like a W that is forming there, your first your start of an impulse is a X point, and then your first leg is your A, your middle part is your B, which is what we call an apex. That's your apex right there. That's your B point. And then your second leg of your harmonic pattern, that's what we call it a C point. And then your D point is your entry point. That's where you check for your entries on what? On your D point. So this one we call a bullish harmonic pattern. When your D point is at the bottom, this is what we call a bullish harmonic pattern. And then your bullish means buy, guys. When you're talking about something that's got a bullish something, that's what we call a buy in forex trading. And then when you see a W type and then your D point, it's at the top there, that's what we call a bearish harmonic pattern. Okay, let's dive deep, guys. As soon as you see your M type forming right there, let's say this impulse is not there yet, and then you see some kind of a double top that is forming from point X to point A, point B. This is where these harmonic patterns are different in point B. Point B is your most important point. Why do I say so? You take your Fibonacci retracement from point X all the way to point A, your impulse. You take your whole impulse. That's why how you measure harmonic pattern. If, guys, it retraces on 786, butterfly must retrace on 786 there. Butterfly must retrace on 786. This middle part must go up, come back. That's what we call a retracement. When it comes back and retrace and doesn't break the 786. If it retraces on 786 right here, then that's when you can confirm that that's your butterfly pattern. Then when it goes up, it mustn't break. Even if it goes straight to this one, even if it's level to the first leg, it mustn't break it to the top. Even if it breaks it, but most of the time it doesn't break the first leg. Second leg is usually below or level to that one. If it stands like this, if it retraces on 786 but doesn't break the first leg, that's when you can confirm that that's your butterfly pattern. Then you wait for your what? For your C to D. You wait for your C to D to form. As soon as all your M type is formed and it goes all the way to 127, these are your most important points. If your B retraces on 786 right here, if it retraces on 786 and then you wait for the second leg, it mustn't break the first one. When it comes back, it must go all the way to where? To 127, which is right here. As soon as that forms, then you take your triangle. Then you draw from X to A. Okay. You take your triangle. You draw from X to A to B. You put it there on 786. Then you take your triangle again. You draw from 786 to your C point. C point can retrace wherever. It doesn't matter as long as it doesn't break the first leg. And then you take from to your C point and then all the way to D point, which is your 127. Then you wait for what? For your entry. On your entry level, guys, that's when I said on the first video, it must form some kind of a double bottom or double top, same as an M. That's what it must, that's a pattern it must form at the bottom there. If it forms something like this here on your D point, that's your entry level, guys. Then you can take whatever. You can take maybe your counter trend line, put it across. As soon as it breaks your counter trend line, that's your entry right there. You can enter. If it doesn't form something like this, then it must form as head and shoulders on top, and then at the bottom it must form inverted head and shoulders. I'm gonna show you what do I mean by that. Only those two confirmations, guys, are reliable. Nothing else. If it reaches your D point, it must form something like this. It must go, form your first leg, form a shoulder, your head, sorry, then make your right hand shoulder. That's your entry up. That's your entry. It must do something like this here. Right here, it must, most of the time, it does something like this on your D point. It does something like this on your D point. Same as here. If you see, if it does, you don't see, if it's a bullish harmonic, you see an M type. But if it's a bearish harmonic, you spot for a W point. Your first impulse, that's your X point, then goes all the way to A point. If it retraces on B, if it's a butterfly, it must retrace where? On 786 also. When you take your Fibonacci retracement from your impulse down to your point A, and then that's your apex. Your apex must go all the way to 786. That's when you can confirm that that's your butterfly pattern on 786. 786 will confirm that it is your butterfly pattern. Butterfly pattern. Then it must come back. It mustn't break the low, the first leg. When it goes to D point, then it must go where? To 127. That's your valid bearish butterfly pattern. That's your D point. Same on the D point also. What it must do, it must form a double top before you can enter. It must form a double top right here. Or if it doesn't form a double top, it must form something like a left hand shoulder, head, breaks it a bit, then right hand shoulder, then that's your entry all the way down. Then that's your bearish harmonic. Before you enter, what do you do? As soon as it reaches your D point, you take your triangle. Take your triangle from point X to point A to your apex. Take another triangle from this point, mustn't break below, and then all the way to D point. That's when this one is a bullish harmonic pattern and this one is a bearish harmonic pattern. Then when it reaches there, it must give you some kind of a confirmation before you can enter. Easy guys. That's your butterfly pattern explained. I'm gonna go down now to your Gartley pattern. Same thing, you do the same thing on all these patterns, guys. Nothing changes. You do the same thing on all of them. When you see some kind of an M forming, what do? Always take your Fibonacci retracement to check which harmonic pattern did form there. I said, guys, you must take something to write. I said butterfly, it must go all the way from point X to A, retraces on 786. Most important points on harmonic patterns, only B point and D point. When it goes up, it traces on 786. That's your butterfly pattern. It mustn't break the high. It must come back all the way to 127 using your Fibonacci retracement. That's your butterfly pattern. When it's a Gartley, you take your Fibonacci again from this point all the way up to that point right here. You check for that point right here. When it comes back, it must retraces where? On 618 to make it a valid Gartley pattern. It must retrace on 618 on your B point right here to make it a valid Gartley pattern. Then it must go up, mustn't break the high. C point, that's your C point on your second leg. It's either to be level on this one or it must be below that first leg. It mustn't break it. When it comes back to your D point, then it must go all the way to 786 right here. Then that's your D point of your Gartley pattern. That's the D point of a Gartley pattern. Then what do? As soon as it goes to D point, you take your triangle. You take your triangle from point X to A to your apex, point B, 618. I said most important is B point and D point. Then you take another triangle to C point all the way to 786, Gartley pattern. That's your Gartley pattern. Then what do? What do you wait for? You wait for your double bottom here or inverted head and shoulders. Then that's your confirmation like this. Head, shoulder, entry up. That's your entry up. Same applies with your bearish Gartley. Same applies with your bearish Gartley. I'm gonna show you a bit on what you check on the bearish Gartley. If you see some kind of a W, take your Fibonacci again from this point. Take it to point A right here. From here to here, take it to point A. Then you check there. I said Gartley must retrace where? 618. That's your B point, your apex. I said apex is the middle part. Your middle part is your B point. This is your B point. When it comes back, it mustn't break the low. It must go all the way to 786 to make it your what? Your Gartley pattern. Then what do you do after? You can take your fibs out. Take your triangle from point X to A to your B point. Take your triangle again from this point to C all the way to D. What do you look for on D? Double top pattern or what? Or head and shoulders. Easy. Or head and shoulders. Entry. That's your entry down. That is your what? Your Gartley pattern. That is your Gartley pattern. All you do, guys, you check for your B point. Check where is it retracing on your B point. Check your B point. When it doesn't break your high or it doesn't break your low, then you check where is it going on your D point. If it meets your harmonic pattern rules, then you know which one is it. Butterfly, I already explained. Gartley, I already explained. Bat pattern and shark pattern are more or less the same. I'll tell you why. Let's go to bat pattern first. Take your fibs all the way up. Bat pattern must retrace away on 50%. As soon as this apex go to 50%, then you know on your head it's either a bat or a shark. It's either a bat or a shark. If it's a bat pattern, it must retrace on 50% here. It must retrace on 50%. If it doesn't break the high, then it's a bat pattern. If it goes here, doesn't break a high, forms a falling M, your C is here, then you know. The only difference on bat and shark is here on A and C. If your C doesn't break a high, then it's a bat pattern. But if it does, if it breaks your high like this, then you know it's a shark pattern. That's the only difference between these two patterns, bat and shark. But let's rather do bat pattern. If it doesn't break a high, but rather forms a second leg on your C point, then it's a bat pattern. But it must retrace away on 50% on your apex. Right here you can see that's 0.5 means it means it's 50% on your apex. Doesn't break the high, then comes back. Your D point should be where? On 886. 886 is your D point. Then you look for your entries on D point. What do you do? As soon as you get on your D point, you take your triangle. Take your triangle from X to A, your apex, 50%. Then you take another triangle. You take another triangle from B point to C point, all the way to D point. Then you take out your fibs. What do you wait for? You wait for confirmation, either a double bottom or what? Or inverted head and shoulders. Left shoulder, right shoulder. Sometimes your head won't break the first leg, but most of the time it does on your head and shoulders. Then gives you a right hand shoulder entry up. Same applies on a bullish harmonic. Point X, you take your fibs from here down. It must retrace away 50%. 50% should be your bat pattern. Always 50% doesn't change, guys. Don't make your own rules. Bat pattern always retraces on 50%. They don't change. Bat pattern 50%, comes back on C, doesn't break the low, goes all the way to what? To 886 to make it your valid bat pattern. 886, that's your D point right here. That's your D point. Then you take what? You take your triangle from point X to A, 50%. Take your triangle again from B point, C point, all the way to 886. Then you take out your fibs. You wait for what? Double top or head and shoulders on top. Something like this. Exactly on your D point. Must give you a pattern. Then you enter. Then you enter. That's your what? That's your shark and bat pattern. Then let's check the last one, which is your crab and deep crab. Your crab and a deep crab. Same thing all over again, guys. The only difference is the B point and the D point. That's the only thing you check. That's the only thing you check. Let's say your crab. Let's check for the crab now. Your crab you take from X to A. Your apex should be where? Should be on your 618. Then you know you're waiting for what? For a crab or for a crab. Difference between a crab and a deep crab. The B point of a crab is 618. But the D point of a deep crab should be 886. That's the only difference. If it goes to 618, then you're waiting for what? For a crab. Doesn't break the high also. Comes back, your D point should be where? 1.618. 1.618. 1.618 all the way down to 1.618. Which makes it your what? The D point of a crab. Sorry. Which makes it your D point of a crab right here. Then you take out your fibs. You draw your harmonic from point X to A, B. Take your triangle again from point B, point C, all the way to 1.618. I think I spotted something like this on this pattern right here. I spotted something like this. I remember doing a deep crab on the last video I did. I took it from here. I took it from this point to that point. If you check there, this is my point X. This one is my point X. That's my point A on top. That's my apex right here. Which one? Okay, I took it from here. I took it from there. From here. Then that's my B point, which goes where? 886. So this means it's a deep crab. It never broke my high. Came back all the way to where? 1.618. I took my entry all the way to 618. I'm gonna explain for the take profits just now. So that's your bullish deep crab. And then your bearish deep crab, you take your Fibonacci from point X to point A. Your deep crab should go to where? To 618. To 618. To 618 right here. That's your B point. That's your B point. And then it doesn't break the low also. Goes all the way. Your D point should be 1.618. Right here, there on top. That's your D point. Oh, what's going on? Oh. That's your D point on top there. You take some kind of a shade, put it on your D point, 1.618. Take out your fibs. Take your triangle from point X to A, 618. Doesn't break the low. Doesn't break the low. Go back, go to all the way to 1.618, which is your D point. What do you wait for? Double top or what? Head and shoulders on top. Head and shoulders on top. Then that's your entry all the way down. That's your bullish deep crab, and this is your bearish deep crab. Easy. Easy, guys. And then your crab, your normal crab, I'm gonna explain a bit. Oh, sorry, this is your crab. 618 is your crab, and then deep crab should go to 886. This one is your crab from point X to A right here. If it goes to 618, which it did here, then this is your normal crab. Doesn't break the high, go all the way to 1.618. That's your normal crab. Even your bearish also, if you take your fibs from this point to this one, 618 is your normal crab. D point is 1.618. Then you wait for your pattern, your entry pattern there. Then you take it down. That's your bearish normal crab. I'll explain now on the deep crab. The only difference is the B point. The only difference is the B point on the deep crab and the normal crab. The normal crab goes to 618 and the deep crab goes to 886. If you take your fibs again, your deep point should go to 886. And then that's your, which makes it your what? Your deep crab. 886 is your B point. 886 is your B point, which is your apex. Doesn't break the high, comes back to where? All the way to 1.618 also. Then you just draw your triangle. You just draw your triangle. The only difference between the crab and the deep crab is 886 and 618. Normal crab is 618. Deep crab is 1.618. I've explained butterfly. I've also explained the Gatli. The bat and the shark is almost the same. 50% on the apex on both of them. B point is 50% on both on bat and shark. The only difference is the shark breaks the high. The shark always go up a bit, breaks it a bit. I'm gonna explain later on. I don't want to confuse you guys on how do you spot the C point of a shark pattern. The only difference between the bat and the shark is a C point. But on the B point, they are always the same. It goes up. When it comes back on the B point, it must always retrace where? On 50%. When it breaks the high, it's a shark pattern. When it doesn't break the high, then it's a bat pattern. When it goes to D point, it must go to 886. Then that makes it your what? Your bat pattern. So bat pattern and shark pattern is the same thing. It's only the high. A and C are different. And then crab and deep crab. Crab pattern, normal crab, it's 618 on an apex on your B point. And then the deep crab on your B point is 886. That's the only difference. And then the cipher, I won't go into the cipher that much because cipher, I don't use it that much. It's only there. I only maybe found it. I get it maybe once in a month or once in 2 months. I need a special time to explain on cipher because it's a little bit difficult for beginners. And then I'm going to explain, guys, how do you spot your take profits on your harmonic patterns. How do you spot your take profits? I only have 2 minutes to explain, guys. This is just a short video explaining how do you spot these harmonic patterns. Your take profits are easy, guys. Your take profits are from A to D. A to D. A to D like this. That's how you count your take profits. You take your fibs from point A all the way to point D. As I said there, DP1 is 38.2. Always doesn't change on all harmonic patterns. This is your first take profit. And then that is your second take profit on all of these patterns, guys. First target is always 38.2 and second target is always 618. Even on a bearish harmonic also, you take your fibs from point A always to point D. And then 38.2 should be your first target. Right here. And then 618 should be your what? Your second target. Always, they don't change. They don't change. They stay the same. 38.2 is your take profit, is your first target. And 618 is your second target. Always on all these patterns. They don't change, guys. They don't change. Thank you guys for your time. Don't forget to subscribe below and click on the notification button so that you can get a notification when we post more videos explaining about these harmonic patterns. This is the tool we use. This is a strategy we use as Solve Forex. Harmonic patterns are very powerful, guys. I'm gonna explain more on the last video I did, which I found a harmonic pattern right here. I'm gonna just follow up, guys. Subscribe to get more videos out, guys. Thank you.